Okay folks, more big news about Danganronpa 2x2. The biggest news is the fact that Danganronpa 2x2's new storyline could retcon Danganronpa 3, the anime. But before we get into that, let's get into some other things. So the first thing here, okay, a Famitsu article was published today, and of course it's all in Japanese. I've used Google Translate to get it into English. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but we're going to be able to get the gist of what's going on here. I'm going to show you on screen what I'm looking at, and then I'm going to read it to you. So, let's get started. So, the first question that was asked, this is like an interview basically. Why was Danganronpa 2 chosen to be remade instead of Trigger Happy Havoc? And at first, a remake or a reboot of 1 was considered. But they realised that the story of 1 is the foundation of Danganronpa and changing it would have too great of an impact. After consideration, it was decided that 2 would be a way to provide users with a new Danganronpa without destroying the worldview of the series. So basically, to put it a little bit simpler I suppose, because Trigger Happy Havoc is where like most of the world building is initially established, even if it's not developed, you can't really change that because that's where everything then branches off from. Whereas Danganronpa 2, especially because it's in a simulation, you can play with that as much as you want, and that's exactly what they've done. Next question. Next question is about the roots and how it branches off. So the introduction to the game is exactly the same, but a certain incident occurs soon after the story begins. Now it's not really known what that is. Some people, I heard some speculation on one of my other videos, a lot of people were suggesting that, well I say a lot of people, it was like 3 or 4, people were suggesting that it could have something to do with the first trial, the first murder, because originally that was Nagito's plan, but then Teruteru got involved and it ended up being Byakuya that died, and people are thinking that that and the deciding outcome of that is what leads to this, but I don't really buy that because I don't think that would necessarily affect the way the story progresses from that point forward in such a drastic manner. But anyway, apparently something is going to happen that branches off the 2 stories, so I'm interested to see what happens with that. Now this part is where it gets interesting, okay? Open up your ears and listen very, very closely, okay? Here's what we've got. The setting from the original Danganronpa and Danganronpa 0 and Ultra Despair Girls, which came before Danganronpa 2, will be followed exactly. And yes, that's correct, as we probably expected, but this is where it gets serious, okay? Does that mean it won't lead to the Danganronpa 3 anime? And he just said, I'd like to ask everyone to look forward to the outcome of 2x2. Basically didn't answer the question, and that is really interesting to me. What's interesting to me is, why would the answer not just be, yes, it does lead to Danganronpa 3? The fact that he said, I'd like everyone to look forward to how it ends, that indicates to me that the new route isn't going to lead into what happens in future arc, but is instead going to branch out into a completely alternate storyline, which means we may, eventually in the next few years, receive a different Danganronpa 3 with a completely different story and potentially a completely different killing game. What? Okay, so as for the rest of this interview, there wasn't really too much in there. Voice actor wise, for the most part, they've managed to get everyone back, which is great. And in terms of the length, it's going to be the same, but we knew that already. And there is also the 15th anniversary event in November 2025, and they're going to do a demo of Danganronpa 2x2 there, which I definitely will be interested to look at. Might not make a video on it, depends on what we see. If we see a lot more new stuff, I will definitely dive in and show it to you guys. But anyway, wow, I know there was just one big piece of information there, but we really need to think about that. So I'm sure everyone knows that, I'm sorry, I'm going to yap on about this for a second just before the video ends. We know that Danganronpa 3 is not very well received, okay? Everyone knows that. Danganronpa 3 was not well received at all. So many people hate it passionately, and very few people love it. People will say they think it's okay, but very few people will outright say they love it. I've met like maybe 2 people on the internet in my time, because I've been a part of the Danganronpa fandom for a fair few years. I barely meet anyone who loves Danganronpa 3. I meet people who think it's okay, but very few people that love it, and that is concerning. And obviously, you know, if you watched it, you probably know why, okay? I don't personally think Danganronpa 3 is very good. I think it's incredibly flawed, especially the Despair arc. I just think it's not a good show, and a very, very lackluster and disappointing conclusion to the Hope's Peak saga. After what came before it, I just think it was a massive disappointment, to be honest. Which is why I'm personally very open to the idea of the Danganronpa 3 anime being kind of, I don't want to say retcon, because it feels like I'm being mean to it, like, oh, just fucking forget about it. But I kind of do want it to be retconned because I don't like it. I didn't even watch the Danganronpa 3 anime until after I'd finished Ultra Despair Girls and V3. I never dived in. It took me like half a year after I'd finished V3 to actually watch the show, and I watched it and formed my own opinion, and yep, it was just as lackluster and whatever as I thought it'd be. I think the future arc is definitely better, but just overall, Danganronpa 3 is not very interesting at all. It's just incredibly underwhelming in my opinion, and I'm honestly probably not going to cover it much on this channel at all. It would be difficult to do so anyway because of copyright and stuff like that, and actually somehow getting like footage or whatever. I'd just have to rely on screenshots pretty much. But yeah, I don't like Danganronpa 3, so I'd really be okay with them retconning it, to be honest with you. Because I think a Danganronpa 3 game that concludes the Hope's Peak story in a proper way. I know that sounds really harsh, I know, open to everyone's opinions. If you love Danganronpa 3, please tell me why in the comments. I want to get involved. I'm not trying to be like negative here, but I really don't think Danganronpa 3 is very good, and I would be very, very open to them concluding the series in a different way, which I'm honestly excited to see if they do. Anyway, folks, that is all. Very quick video, I know. I don't think there'll be any more news this week, so there won't be another video from me until Saturday. I usually do weekly videos anyway, but there's just been so much to cover in such a short amount of time. If all of this was done in one day, I would have pumped out maybe 2 videos at most, but no, this is my 4th video. Okay, I know I'm getting a bit ridiculous, but you won't see another video from me until Saturday. I can guarantee it. Unless more information comes out tomorrow, but it probably won't. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing for more Danganronpa, because you know I'll be covering this series now and forever. Okay, maybe not forever, but for quite a while. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. I just need to know. I just need to know.